Well, part of my life is was very organized and deliberate and planned out. I wanted to make, as a MD, PhD, pediatrician scientist, I wanted to make low-cost vaccines for the world, and that's what I'm doing. And then, as John Lennon says, life's what happens when you're busy making other plans. And I met my wife Ann in New York as an MD, PhD student. We've been married 38 years now. We've lived in Rockefeller University housing for $44 a month on the Upper East Side of New York. That's how long ago it was. And we, got married, had four kids who are now adults, including Rachel has autism and intellectual disabilities. And then many years ago, I got asked by the NIH to speak to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and try to explain to him why vaccines did not cause Rachel's autism. And you can see I was not very successful at that, but it forced me to really look up everything about vaccines and really to do a deep dive and explain the evidence showing there's no link between vaccines and autism. And that's what I did in this book, which is called Vaccines Do Not Cause Rachel's Autism. And unfortunately, that also made me a big target by anti-vaccine activists. So, but there's two parts to this. One is the evidence showing there's no link between vaccines and autism. And unfortunately, the anti-vaccine activists keep moving the goalpost. First, they said it was the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine in 1998, and then Kennedy wrote in Rolling Stone magazine in 2005, okay, if it's not the MMR vaccine, it's the thimerosal preservative that used to be in vaccine. That was also debunked by the scientific community. And then it was spacing vaccines too close together, or alum in vaccines. It kind of became this exhausting game of whack-a-mole or moving the goalpost. But the book does that. It does, it provides all the evidence showing there's no link for any of that. But even then, that wasn't sufficient because parents would rightly ask, okay, now, doc, I get it. Vaccines don't cause autism. Hey, doc, what causes autism? A very reasonable question to ask. And for that, I explain the genetics of autism. We have more than 100 autism genes, all involved in early fetal brain development. Many of them are involved in regulating either gene expression in neurons or neuronal cytoskeleton proteins, or how neurons interact with each other, which makes a lot more sense. But the point is, this is all happening during pregnancy. It's nothing to do with anything like a vaccine. It doesn't mean that there's no environmental exposures, but they're happening in early fetal pregnancy because happening in early fetal brain development in pregnancy because they're interacting with autism genes. The best example of this is not Tylenol. In fact, that's not even on the list at all. But something like Depakote or valproic acid. It's a mood stabilizer, anti-seizure medication. So if you're pregnant and not aware of it on that medication, it interacts with autism genes and can give you an autism phenotype. And there are other environmental exposures, which was always frustrating for me that Mr. Kennedy had no interest in those because he was too busy pursuing vaccines and everything else that has no relationship. So the book is an important book. It makes a statement, and I think it's very helpful. It's been very helpful for parents understanding why vaccines are safe and effective for their children and do not lead to autism.